Welcome to Options Center. We are here to do a video today on support and resistance. We have a lot of new players out there in the field, and we'd like to make sure that the new traders are getting the proper information out there. Anything that I could do to help out. I went through this, every trader went through this, and some people are trading without even using technicals at all. That's you can go on fundamentals, but that's long-term game. If you're looking to trade, you have to have something to trade on. So before we get started, go down to that Options Tender logo on the right-hand side, bottom corner, and hit the subscribe button. If you like this information, please hit that like button so we can get those algorithms out there, so we can get to new traders and YouTube can get us out there and we can spread the word, spread the wealth. Okay, so let's jump into it. What is support and resistance? Well, there's three ways you can put this, and you can bundle them all up, or they can be synonymous. Essentially, it's the psychology of the market. It is supply and demand, and that creates market structure. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're showing. We're just doing it in an optical formation, in a visual, on a visual chart. That's what chartists do. That's what technicals are all about. So if you have a psychology, when there's not enough buyers, then that creates a lot of supply, and that therefore creates resistance, and that works on the opposite as well. If there's no more sellers, that creates demand, and that's your support area, and that happens. We're going to include trend lines in this as well. You could do a whole separate video on trend lines, but we're going to keep it in a basic form, and let's go ahead and show you. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so first we're gonna we have a naked chart here. I did leave the MAs on there because that's a certain way of doing it too. That could be a whole nother video, but I want you to see how those MAs can kind of guide us just as well as the trend line. But first we're going to start off with with levels. So we're going to bring out our price level tool, and we're just going to visually look to see where price could be resistance and support. And looking at here's a good spot. I use a daily chart on Bitcoin, and the reason why I chose Bitcoin is because a lot of new players are just jumping in because of the Bitcoin craze, and this will be a good example for them to look at. And at the end, we'll look at GME just to see how parabolic stocks, you have a hard time doing some of these technicals, and therefore they're really hard to trade. So we could just look for an area where there's a bunch of touching points, and this looks like a good area right here to put a price level. You have a touch here. You have multiple touches here. Price gets over the resistance and uses it as support, but just couldn't hold on to it and goes back to retest it and is rejected. So this makes a really good support and resistance line. Touched here. Touch multiple times here, and comes over, breaks the area after consolidation, breaks the area, and comes back and touches again. So that's a wonderful support line. Now you can just go to the tip of a lot of these and just put on your support underneath where it just touches a few times. That's that's just as accurate as well. Right there. And if you get closer in here, you can kind of see, okay, when you have wicks like this, especially, that means that there's some demand there. So we can put that where most of the wicks touch, or even close to the body, because then you're touching more wicks. You got touches here, 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 all through there. So that makes a wonderful support area as well. So that's just a real easy way to do it really quick. And let's see, let's remove these. And some people, I like to do it another way. I like to take the zones. I used to use these price levels, and I still do, and I'm going to show you a much more accurate, much more solid way. I use all of these techniques overall. But if we want a zone, if we think we're really going to come back hard, the price level could be right here. That makes some support as well. But we know that this support here has a couple touches, and we know that support there has multiple touches over time. So that would be considered like a supply zone. Okay. Now I would make that usually a different color, just because, let's see, just because we want to make sure that we keep it different for when we use a tool again. So that might be a beautiful price zone. There's even, this was a spot where a breakout happened. Some people don't even use trend lines. Some people don't even use actual level tools. They go to the scene of the breakout or breakdown. And this would be a scene where we had a resistance level, came back and broke out from it. So that would be their level alone. Okay, but now there's something else that I didn't plan on even putting in here, and I just noticed it. There's a gap here. Well, that's actually a support and resistance all in itself. So I took where the price closed here on that day. That's a daily candle. I took where it closed approximately. I wasn't precise on it. And then I took it up to the point where the open happened. That's a gap. And then I extend it out just so we have some time over on it. You can always adjust it. And I'll leave that box gray. That's what I use on my charts for the gap. Now, when we come back, the price went up here, consolidated, and we still call this a test of the area, even though it didn't come all the way back to the gap. That's a back test or a flag. We'll show that a little bit. But this creates support as well. So when price comes back to a gap, it can either reverse off to the other direction, or it can close the gap by price going into that gap, and also the bottom of the gap creates a support as well, so it can reverse off the bottom there. It's always possible that price can just rip through or even gap over a gap. And that would just be very strong movement. If it's moving down, that'd be like an island. Okay, so if price oscillated over here and came back to this gap, and then the next day it gapped under it, that would be an island top. Okay, so let's clear that out. Those are zones. Those are different support and resistant zones. So we first went over the price levels with just a thin line, and then a zone where support could happen. Now we're going to do trend lines. These also create support. So on a more parabolic action here, we have pivot to pivot. So you take the very bottom, it's an obvious pivot, right, where price reversed, and then you see where price came to and broke out. That's simply a pivot as well. So from pivot to pivot, there goes a geometric line or a trend line that maybe price can come back to retest at one point. But on a parabolic stock, similar to Bitcoin or like GME, that you'll notice that it starts looking like a fan. Price never really comes back to test that. Now it will eventually, but you see at this point we can't even reach those trend lines. But a lot of different stocks will actually hold on to these trends the whole way up. Okay. Now this line tool can also be used to draw your support and resistance as well. So at this point, here's a good geometric shape for you. I noticed we had this that support resistance there. Well, we can just bring it right to that pivot, and guess what? We have our ascending triangle, breaking out of an ascending triangle to the upside. All right. Excuse me. Okay, so another way to create support and resistance is through a channel, the channel tool. And I noticed that some traders use these a lot for flags. So let's say we're trending up, right? Well, flags can come in all different shapes and sizes. A lot of people actually draw out the triangle or falling wedge that they support. But if you look at some traders do simply this. And so it has a couple points that it touches on the bottom side and the top side, and creates yourself a bull flag or a retracement, as a matter of fact. So it's kind of a guideline. I wouldn't use it for specific points of breaking out. Now, if you use volume and you see prices moving out of the channel on big volume, then that's a good indication that's a flag breakout. But these channels can also be used, and this isn't going to work for Bitcoin here, but if you would bring the bottom of the point, and let's say we brought it to the top of the point there. Let's see if that works out here. Yeah, a little bit. That works out. So we have a channel now that formed on Bitcoin. From the bottom, you had some pivots, and you had the beginning of the channel here, and you had 3 points on it. So that's a solid channel. I wasn't actually looking for that, but and then we broke off the channel bottom, hit the top, consolidated it, hit the top again. And the price doesn't always go, when you're going parabolic, price doesn't always go back to the bottom of the channel and ping pong back and forth, but you can expect it to. Okay, so that's our channel tool. And now I want to get a little bit more thorough with the price levels. Now, I do this on the ES when I do my daily updates. I'll just go over there real quick and show you. Look at all these lines on here. Crazy amount of lines. It's insane, but I use this to trade off of on very, very low time frames. So it gives us real close up in action levels that price obeys over and over and over again. I don't have to change these lines all the time. It looks very tedious, and it is in the beginning when you're first starting off your mapping. But let's go back over to BTC, and I'll show you exactly what's going on here. Now, this is going to be a little bit longer video, you guys, but I really want to make this thorough for you. So we'll bring our price tool, our price level tool. Let's go on our highest actual time frame I use as the monthly. And we're just going to do, we're going to do 2 months worth of, a little coffee there, 2 months worth of action. So I will do these very precise, and so this will be a little tedious, but we're going to bring a price level up here. And just to show you how I do it personally, I highlight that level and I name them. If you're not using Thinkorswim, I would imagine that all the different brokers have these type of abilities, but I like to change this. We're going to use this as a monthly. We have the name over on the right hand side. I like to use the small dashes and thicker number 3s to use for that monthly. And now for this value, I want to make sure that I go on the candle. It's obvious here with the high, but I'm going to go highlight the candle, and you'll see in this area the high of that candle when I go on it. Okay, so right there, if you look at the H, it's 57,790. 57,790 into the box. And now I have my monthly resistance. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And we'll highlight it this monthly. We'll grab our support. So on the same thing here, if you go to this candle, the low over in the section, 32,530. 32,530. Okay. And it puts it right on there. So now throughout the month, this month just closed. So this works out perfect. And then we do I'll just do 1 month because this will take a little bit too much time. So now we go down to our weekly. And on the weekly, we have our individual candles as well. So we'll do another price level. And we'll use this nice bearish engulfing candle. And we'll reshape this price level to fit our weekly preference. and I'll just put WK. And then I like to have mine larger dash with a little bit smaller width. And so we do the same thing. We leave, because this is the top of the month, we leave that as a monthly. I don't draw a new weekly for that top, okay? But this one, we want to make sure that we get that bottom line there. So the low of this is 44,555. And now that's our new weekly candle. Okay, let's do one more week under there, and let's duplicate this just so we have a little bit more playing field. Actually, we'll fill out the whole month. So we just look. We're not going to use the top of that because we already cleared it. Okay, this candle is engulfing this whole area, so we just want the bottom. We want the most recent areas. So we want the bottom of this, and then the bottom of this one, this candle. So we're going to highlight the bottom there. That's 38,305. Okay, so that's support. We already have our resistance. That's the monthly and also the weekly. Now the bottom of this week. Now the bottom of this week. So, price is headed to the downside. Where do we have support? All of these. And then finally, all the way down to monthly support there. And you see how they obey each other. Look at the past weeks. This is a big level. You see all the spikes through it. Couldn't make it over, broke out, and now it's probably coming back to test it. Okay, down to the daily time frame, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create ourselves one last price level. We're not going to go any lower than that. I do have some areas when candles are really large and volatility is really stretching out these candles. I will do 4-hour and 2-hour lines as well. But let's go. Start from the top. What's the first support and resistance? If price started going up right now, where would resistance come out? The top of this candle. Let's shape this candle the way we want to. I like to put a D. And I keep it all the way on the red, no dashes, and 1. So we're all set with the daily. We just want to change the price of it. And the top of this is 54,515. That's the H. 54,515. Okay, so we have a resistance there. Okay, now where do I put the next daily? We have a lot of wicks here, and they're pushing off of this AMA. We're not really supposed to be doing that, but if price were to go back up, the first resistance, let's duplicate this. It's not about, I'm not going to put a huge amount of prices, price levels because of these wicks. These wicks are working off the same supply. So I'll just put it on this candle right here, this solid candle. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. And the top of this is 48,990. 48,990. So now we have our daily resistance and support. And you see this is a whole full daily candle. And so I don't have to put any within this week here. Okay. Now there's a bunch down here. I'm not going to waste your time. You can do that yourself, but you can put a couple daily supports in here if you wanted to. And now when we go to 65-minute chart, because we start trading on lower levels, you see how all of these levels are respected. This is the monthly. This is your full month range. This is one candle, this whole range on the screen. You have your daily, you have a couple reactions there. You have your daily here as well. A lot of reactions, resistance, support, 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 again, resistance. And the same thing is huge daily support and resistance. You see that it respects it all the way through. And now you're at your weekly. So on Bitcoin this week, we're going to watch this weekly range. We're going to see if we get back into this weekly area before moving back to the upside. Once we break a weekly support, then you can expect price to oscillate anywhere through there. Okay? Because that's a huge candle. That was one day that filled out this whole week. All right. So that's it. That's it, you guys. That's what we do for price levels. Now, I want to show you. Let's clear this board. I want to actually go over to GME and show you why it's so difficult. Now, if you put in the time, just like we did on the last levels that I just showed you, if you put in the time, you can really create some good levels for GME, but you have to just get in there. I'm just optically going to do it real quick. But you see where it's respecting. Look at this gap. Let me draw on the gap. This is actually that island. Well, you had this is basically an island gap right through here. Even though it came back and closed that gap, that's what we're looking for in an island without that candle. Okay, so anyway, but you see the gap there. You see how price respects the gap and makes a resistance. So GME is not impossible to trade, but I mean, they shut it down. They open it up 30 points above its level. I wouldn't touch this. And I do have a strategy for in-out spreads if you want to use a very safe way to play these parabolic plays. But liquidity is crazy, and I just don't mess with them itself. But so you see how you actually get into this chart, and it's difficult to do the trend lines. What are you going to do? And this is at one point a good trend line, and then what do you do with this? You can't draw trend lines in here. It does nothing. So it's very difficult to trade this off of trends and using all the other. But you get the zones in there. You can do it. It can happen. But good luck doing that. You won't see me in there. All right. So I hope this helps. That, in conclusion, is support and resistance. And if you haven't used the word market structure, you guys look market structure up. This is all about the psychology, supply and demand. And this is where these trend lines and these support and resistance lines really comes in. And that puts it in a psychological perspective of why people are buying. If not enough people are buying, then you have supply, and that creates resistance. And if you don't have enough, if you have so many sellers, or if you don't have enough buyers, and you have all these sellers, then it creates, that's supply. Excuse me. If you have a ton of buyers and you just don't have any sellers, like in GME, you have all these buyers but no sellers, so that's where support happens. This is now support. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for joining us here. Hit that like button. Again, hit the supply button. Hit the subscribe button down in the lower right hand corner. The options tender logo. If you like this information, we give out tutorials every once in a while, but we give a market update in the morning. We prep for the market day. At night, we do a market update, and these are very important so you can continually watch the market. If you're trading individual stocks are overall controlled or influenced by the overall market. That's why we do it. So join us here on Options Center. Hit that like button. Talk to you soon.